Hello, my name is Lisa Luxx, and since this is 2020, welcome to my concert in my house. um, I'm gonna spend like 30 minutes or so with you. We're gonna be doing some poems. I'm gonna be chatting, and we're generally dancing around the theme of trust your outrage. So that is loosely / directly based on the name of my latest chapbook, and I think it's an interesting time, isn't it, to talk about outrage, because anger is destructive, but outrage is productive. When you're saying this thing in the world, this world itself even does not feel aligned with my values, and I'd like to do something to change it, there comes outrage. I think it's a very interesting time for us to tap into our outrage and the magic of outrage, the potion of outrage. And when we are all communally outraged, we tend to gather around the cauldrons of our outrage, and that is how we meet, and that is how we build communities. So, big fan of outrage. I'm going to take you on a small journey of outrage, and also we're going to just generally be thinking about this notion of the body as a protest. The body is a site of your protest, right? So I hope you got a brew, or you got yourself a drink, and that you're comfortable in your home. I'm going to be sending you this, as I say, directly from my home, and it's nice to have you around. I'd make you a tea myself if I could, but we're not there yet. Maybe 2021. So this came about because I was due to have a full-length poetry collection out, and it was going to be my first one, my first book. And unfortunately, I found out that there was some men at the publishing house who had a history of sexual violence. So I couldn't rightly publish with them then. I was outraged. So I pulled the book from publishing, and instead I created this small chapbook. And everybody who financially benefits from this is a woman, or is feminist, is non-binary, but all are feminist. I call that the economy of sisterhood. I'm very inspired by the Bristol pound and the Brixton pound, like the quid that can't leave that area and can just be spent in independent retailers. I'm interested in localising currency, and I'd like to see it happen with a feminist currency. I really would. For now, we create these projects and we just make sure that we funnel our cash to each other, and that is how we make the economy of sisterhood. But I do want a feminist currency, so I'm going to kick off with a poem called I Want a Feminist Currency. And this is after Zoe Leonard. So Zoe Leonard wrote a poem called I Want a Dyke for President. And if you don't know it already, it'll soon be doing the rounds, because it often does during the time of the US presidential election. But this is inspired by her. I want my quid to go to Cherry down at the bakery, working every Sunday to pay for therapy. I want my quid to go to the dyke with her white van and trowel, chartering the young trans kid moving house again on the weekend. I want my quid to go to the Syrian mother making halloumi from an ice cream vat after finally getting leave to remain in a country that blames her. I want my quid to go to the soap maker sis, brewing potions in an old mill after quitting her job in management because of harassment. I want my notes crushing in the palms of aunties selling saris on their Saturday market stall. I want my pounds in the pockets of barmaid babes, whose degrees got them nowhere since the spelling of their name gave ethnicity away. When I spend money I've earned, working twice as hard as my male counterpart, I want it to be passed on to another grown adult woman with acne as her sin for trying to survive the stress of this pressure cooker we're in. I want these pennies I get passing on next to the Nigerian daughter giving half her wage to her single mom. If we have to spend, let it end up with the wife still working tirelessly at 71 while her retired husband watches golf. I want our own currency for the survivors, self-healers, for the ones who live and learn. I want our own currency that can't be spent on brands unless they're women-owned, hiring women staff on fair wage and all that. I want the dropout carrying a pack of cards to build the bones of our own economic system. After forking out on expensive taxi rides by day, life and death a daily bet. After long WhatsApp group chat days, oh, text me when you get home safe. All while hustling to score a small wage, we need a currency that stays within the sisterhood. A local quid for the trafficked, for the Magdalines, for the dinner lady who put me in isolation after I nipped Harry until he bled. I want to know why my grind lands like another grain of sand on private beaches of the Bezos and the Epsteins, the Charles and the Harveys. And why? I was always taught astrology and never economy. Always magic. Never power. So when I talk about the body as a site of protest, the body as a protest itself, I think about what it is to have the public lesbian experience. I see that as not necessarily a protest that I made a placard for or that I chose to go down to, but one that I am consistently embodying by being both out and visible. So last year there was a whole heap of hate crimes towards lesbians, towards women loving women. There was a real spike in it. And it happened not just from outside, but from inside the community as well. Lesbian is like so loaded with these connotations that over time we've been made homeless in language, kicked out of our own word. A community centre so hostile that we clumsy through umbrella terms exposed. Now you never know which days your clothes will become fatigues, which days you'll be made to bleed, bones moving out the way of fists like girls dodging tanks of the streets. You never know which days your blood will be conscripted by them who deploy orders with their knuckles, carving rivers out of flesh. Droplets giggled down her neck. Across that plate of stone between the breasts, private places that she tried to protect. Now, how many times have I pulled away from a kiss to find a stranger's face so close that his breath was forming puddles on my cheek? Gangs of boys surround us as we lips, dicks pointing like kids. Mummy, what are those ladies doing? The Metro article about Melania and Chris that we all circulated didn't use the word lesbian. Lesbian. Say it. Without feeling that fizz of taboo. Say it. Without thinking porn category, punchline, or some threesome you're due. Say it. Without thinking phase, without thinking male gaze, without thinking turf, or enemy of the queer crusade. Say it without thinking we're your currency to spend. Say it knowing when we come out we have to steal our bodies back from men. Say it above a whisper. Say it as easily as you say gay. Say it like it's my name. Every day my shoulder is a stack of sandbags. Brows lifting above the parapet to check, baby, are we safe yet? Our palms are two birds' wings folding in a nest of fingers. We rest our hands together as we move. Public is a place to hold each other safe. A softness so often ambushed by shame. You never know which days your eyes will turn black. Lifeless swamps burping out everything you've swallowed. Oh, you never know. So you prepare every day. Love cramped in fear, twitching alert. Our last nerve frayed by the words, "Hey, ladies, can I join in?" Isn't the very point of being lesbian that it has nothing to do with man? Their entitlement blows at the insecurity in that. Lesbian is a word stuck in your throat. The shuffle of wet feet pulling out from the bogland beneath. And who gets to keep the feathers of all those broken wings fried in fat and served to feast? Lesbian is the flutter plucked from flesh. Decorative, trampled past between a gasp of wind and breath. Shh. Say it. Say it like it's my name. Being a dyke and also having the conflict of being mixed heritage as well brought up some confusion in the past 9 or so years. So my mixed heritage is both British, English and Syrian. And Amin Malouf says that identity is like a pattern on a drum skin. So if you hit one part of it, bah, then everybody who is part of that pattern will feel the effects. So if you hit somebody, everyone who identifies with that, somebody with that identity is going to feel the shockwaves. So in the past 9 years of the Syrian catastrophe, there was a lot I was feeling on a very cellular level being here. There was a lot that I was feeling in my blood. And there was an urge that I had to respond to the mass genocide and the war. Now, what that urge was, for some period of time, interestingly, was this will to or this fantasy to go out and meet a Syrian man and to have his child. I thought he could water the seed of Syria in me, and then I would be able to give birth to a fragment of the country after so much was being destroyed. So that was quite an interesting thing to keep coming up, because the way that I identify with my body, with my gender, with my sexuality had never lent itself to feeling like this was a child-rearing body before. But it was so strong. It was so strong. So this is called the Civil War. Thick hair in a bun that she wears at the front of her head. That's a dyke quiff, she quips, and tattoos the double Venus onto her neck. Well, if you didn't know, now you do. But if you didn't know, do I need to tell you? On a Wednesday morning, she goes to town, slips an eyeliner from Superdrug and lipstick down the sleeve of her coat. A dark, bloodshed, Arab red licks her lips like flames singeing cloth on the dead. She writes across her eyelids in a black inky pen, don't assume I'm white because I look like you. Privileged by face, but you haven't a clue how many bombs go off in the holes of her skin when she's quiet outside. There is civil war within. The furnace of our ancestry is constantly burning inside, sending smoke signals from the pit of our stomach to the glint in our eyes. Some people were born to be weapons. They had no choice but to join the fight. She is an overloaded double-barrel shotgun shooting bent in a tide of white. Her ancestors speak to her at night. While Aleppo pine trees morph into the pines and wheeze of a new Holocaust, she hears whispers in her ear. Her role is to be mother, they say. And so she undresses into a chalk outline to climb into the bed of a Syrian man writing untold stories on his chest. The future of our country waits between your legs. To counter the silence that raised her, she gives birth to noise instead. Now I've started to try and find some rest with having these two, what feels like opposing forces in me sometimes, the East and the West, the Arab world and the white world. A friend once said to me, she's also mixed heritage, and she said that she felt that it was evil to have mixed heritage children because in a racist world, that person will grow up embodying that conflict. And that's true. You do. You're constantly at war with yourself. And I had this one day where I realized maybe those opposing sides were like hands. These are opposing sides as well, but they come together. This is called Where the Conflict Ends, and it's in 3 parts: what, how, why. They say stay in your lane, but I straddle the cat's eyes. Cars honking on either side, yelling, get out of our way. An amber traffic light reflects my face. Halloween. If Earth is our mother, then countries are our fathers. Her oceans are swelling salt tears and endless grief. And if we can make the pain stop between us, the sea levels might cease to stop rising. How? My Jewish grandmother, an orphan, arriving in northern England off a boat, assimilates to Manchester with clotted cream and scones. Far away, my Muslim grandmother in a hijab of Damascene cloth picks figs from her jasmine-scented garden after mosque. In my body they meet, sharing the wine of my blood, looking out at the world that divides them through my single set of eyes. Why? To all those who know the conflict, who turn up looking like the oppressor at the threshold of their homeland, half-land, whose otherness is a symptom of flight, who had taters written up for lunch and mum's Yorkshire puddings for tea, whose throats don't fit around the words they always heard aunties speak. In our bodies, the world comes together. Our bodies are the prayer for peace. I think when we talk about outrage, actually, we are really talking about strategy. Alice Dunbar Nelson, the writer, teacher, poet, civil rights activist, feminist. She wrote a great short poem called Hope. And in it, and I'm going to paraphrase her, which is sacrilegious, but I'm going to do it. In it, she speaks of hope as the sensation of when you are drowning in a treacherous sea, shipwrecked, perhaps. And a flash comes from the shore, meaning two things. There's a shore and there's something flashing, right? I love this as a definition of hope. But I want to push it further. I believe that hope, or activating hope, is what happens after you see the flash. It's a strategy. It's that I'm here and that's there, and these two things are going to come together. We can do that now. Life. Here we are in a treacherous sea. Hanging on to what? A bit of plywood, it feels. At best. We need to look out for the flash on the shore and figure out how to get from here to there. That will be the manifestation of hope. So I want to bring us back to the cauldron, how we gather at it, because that's when we make strategy. When we gather around the cauldron of our outrage. And this is how I think sisterhood is born. So sisterhood is a word. Sister is a word that I use a lot. I noticed I was using it too much. Everyone was my sister. Waitress was my sister. Sister. What's up, sister? So I realized I was using it passively. And in order to mean something, you have to activate the word. How do you activate the word? You have to unpack it and repack it with your own definition. So I did that with sisterhood. So now when I say the word sister, I'm stepping into a responsibility. I'm going to end on this, the definition of sisterhood. My definition of sisterhood. Sisterhood is not friendship. It's a woman akin, related to you by the pain you've been in. When I say sister, I do not mean friend, I mean a woman complete, whose cracks never need mend. When I say sister, I mean I echo the gong of your moon, and giddy or mad, you're safe to do you when I'm in the room. When I say sister, it means hold my hand. Even though you don't like me and you'll never understand why my humour is wicked and my manner is crass, why I'm still immature and my temper is fast. When I say sister, it doesn't mean that you make me relax, it means you make me uncomfortable. But I welcome that. When I say sister, it means you have the power to make me hurt. But I trust all I receive from you will give me a lesson to learn. When I say sister, it means this promise. I will keep working on my strength, and from it, I'll become the warrior, the medicine, and the mama. Because one day, just in case you ever need me, when I say sister, it means I'll be ready. Thank you so much for spending this half hour with me. And in these last few moments, I'd just like to say, please keep your heart and your donations with Beirut. After the explosion, by the time you're watching this, I will be back in Beirut, and the Lebanese people need you right now. We've been talking during this past half hour about outrage, about magic, about community, about hope, about strategy. And this is an opportunity to put that into action. So I really ask you to. Thank you, and look after yourselves.